to our program. This is a special episode of our video blog called It's Not Complicated. We recorded live broadcasts regularly from March 2013 through July of this year. You can watch those videos on the ICTISNet Live YouTube channel. At that time, we decided to go on a hiatus so we could focus more on our family situations and our gospel entrepreneur projects. However, after a recent experience, we decided to do this live broadcast of our video blog entitled Our Encounters with Strangers. We want to share from our hearts to yours. Bernard will be doing a similar broadcast in French. We normally would provide notes, but we won't have notes for this one because we just kind of share from our hearts. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about entertaining strangers that a lot of Christians quote. It's from Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some have unwittingly entertained angels. That's the New King James Version. We're not talking about entertaining strangers just in case we might be able to entertain angels. There's nothing like that. What we want to do is just share from our heart to yours, kind of what our motivation is as far as walking the Christian life and how we engage people that we meet along that path. And the first story that provoked us, that made us want to do these two broadcasts, was an encounter that we had about a week ago with a fellow at Whole Foods. We usually go there. Well, that's one of the grocery stores that we shop at, for groceries. And normally, for those of you that may be familiar with Whole Foods, they usually have samples, sample stations in different parts of the store where they sample different things. And we just happened to enter into the section of the store where they had desserts. And we had finished shopping and we were getting ready to go back out that way. And that particular section had two stations for samples. One was with little pieces of cinnamon rolls, and another one was gingerbread. I guess gingerbread bread or actual cake or something, but it was gingerbread something or other. Anyway, my husband Bernard and I, we had already gone through, and I said, well, we'll just get a few more before we leave the store. And so I'm not as much for gingerbread, and so I decided just to grab a little more of the cinnamon rolls for both of us, not just me, but I was gathering a whole lot. Well, the station for this for the gingerbread samples was within hearing distance. I could hear what was happening, and so I couldn't hear the man. I didn't know where he was from. I couldn't hear him very well, but I heard my husband, and he said, "I'm from South Tulsa." For those that know him personally, a lot of times when people ask him where he's from, that's his first answer, because he has a very distinct French accent. And so a lot of times when people hear him talk, they're curious where he's from. And so he'll usually say, "Oh, I'm from South Tulsa." And so I just happened to hear him say that, and I said, okay, conversation is going on. So I went over there and got next to him, and he was talking to this man. And he asked the man where he was from, and he said that he was from a country in Eastern Europe. I'll just say that he's old enough to remember World War II and the occupation of Germany and in parts of Europe and things like that. That's what I will say. And so when he said where he was from, what country he was from, he mentioned, well, my wife has been in that country, which I had gone there in 2000. And this country that I went to, I was in a town where they had a concentration camp. I remember the name of the concentration camp, but I couldn't remember the town that I was in. So I mentioned the name of the concentration camp, and he told me the name of the town. And I told him, kind of what my experience was. And seeing a concentration camp, it is the most dreadful thing you will ever see in your life. And I say that seriously. I wasn't a kid, I was grown. And when I saw that, I broke down and cried. And I was telling this to this man, they 2 days before our team, we went there to minister. 2 days before our team decided to go to this concentration camp, some Jewish people tried to burn it down. So you can only imagine, if you know world history at all, of what happened to Jews, Christians, and anyone that did not fit the mold of Hitler's view of the perfect race. went to concentration camps. They were gassed when they were thinking they were getting showers, that they put gas in the shower heads and gas people. They just a lot of horrible things. And so I was telling this man that, and when I finished, he started to talk to us, and he was talking about his experience back then. I didn't realize until then how old he was, until he started talking about when he was a little boy. And his mother was Jewish and his father was Catholic. And so, like I said, he was in an Eastern European country where it had been occupied by Germany. And and he talked about how, so he kind of had a mix of both the Jewish tradition and the Catholic tradition. And he shared a story that was past compelling. It was heartbreaking. He was talking about how his father, who was Catholic, protected him and his mother, from the Germans, and ended up dying in a concentration camp. And after that, he talked about how he was, like I said, his mother was Jewish and his father was Catholic. And so at some point in his life, he was able to immigrate to another country. I can't remember. But anyway, him and his mother. Anyway, after he became grown, he decided that he had heard about Jesus Christ and he wanted to learn more about Christ. And so he went to Israel for a time to find out about Jesus Christ. And he said, in a nutshell, I won't go into all the details, but he just shared his heart about, search for God, about his family and everything. And he said that, he didn't understand everything about Jesus, but there were two things that he understood. He understood that Jesus Christ was God. And he said, the one thing that I've taken from the life of Christ was the concept of forgiveness. And I almost broke down and cried in the store, because I'm thinking, if he can walk like that, and try and forgive people after what he's walked through, that's the lesson that he learned about Jesus. That was it. I mean, that was it for us. And he showed us pictures of his son. He's married, and he had a son, and that his son is an Orthodox Jew, and him and his wife had 9 children. He was just showing pictures of his family and was talking about this happened because my father protected my mother and I back then. And it was just so compelling for us, because, it's so easy to just try and hit people, with Jesus and all that kind of thing. And he just wanted to share his heart, and he understood Jesus was God, and he understood that about forgiveness. And the way he was talking, he's wanting his son to understand who Jesus is also, but it was such a precious event for us that it really touched our hearts. And when we came back home, we decided, maybe a day or two later, I can't remember, we decided that we were just so touched by that. And we have different stories like that throughout our lives, even before Bernard and I got married almost 5 years ago, in about 2 or 3 weeks here. But, how as Christians, we've had these encounters with people, and of course, everyone we know, they were a stranger at some point, I don't know if we'll ever see that man again, but I guarantee you, I'll never forget him. And just to see, understand the point of reference of people, when you engage people, it was just such a blessing for both of us. But that was the story that provoked us to do this program. We just wanted to share from our hearts, and just stories that we've had over the decades. Now I've been a Christian over 40 years now. Became a Christian in August 1974, and so as a teenager, and I've had quite a few interesting encounters over those years, just people that I knew, people that I met once and haven't seen since, just a lot of things like that. I'm just going to tell you a few stories of from my life. Some were with Bernard and I, some was before we got married. Probably the one story that still gets to me is a coworker. If this is the first time that you've seen this broadcast, my husband and I are in the tech industry. We have a corporation, Light B Corp. Between both of us, we have about 80 years of experience in the technical world. We both worked in consulting for decades. I worked in it for almost 30 years. My husband over 40. Before he retired, and we got together and we're doing our own business now, consulting business. Anyway, probably about, I guess it was in 1987, I was consulting at a company, and I was consulting in different departments as a programming consultant, software developer. And I worked off and on at this particular place for 13 years until March of 2000. And so throughout the years, I was the one that end users had come to. They needed programming changes, or they needed new screens, to do their work. And one of the end users that I worked with was, her name was Johnny McCarty. And I would interact with them at work, but I didn't do a lot after work. She was not a Christian. She had been very Catholic, but I guess her family wasn't really active in that tradition. And I would affectionately refer to her as a heathen. Not in a bad sense, but she was just clueless about God. She just lived her life. She lived for happy hour, that kind of thing. Sweet gal, nice gal. While I was getting to know her, she went through a divorce. Her husband was, I would say, in the United States, we would say there's some people that are a good date, but not a good spouse. That's how I would describe her husband. And anyway, she went through different things like that. And I was not one just to say, well, I'm a Christian, all that kind of thing. But I went to a Christian school, or Roberts University. And so the assumption was that I was a Christian. And I would talk about church life like they would talk about going to the bar or whatever, if they asked me what I was doing. But I didn't throw it down their throats, because I'm not paid to conquer my workplace. I'm paid to do a job. If I had time during, breaks or something like that, there were a few times that I reached out, as I felt led to do. But I'm there to work. I don't believe that you go when you promise to do a job and they're paying you to witness. That's not right. You're stealing from that employer. Anyway, that was another topic there. But anyway, when I went to Oral Roberts University, we were taught not just to be preachy necessarily, but we were taught to be the best that we could be in our field, be the best example you could be on your job. And so that's how I lived. And so anyway, this one coworker, along with many of them, I did work for her and stuff like that. And I didn't think anything about it. In March 2000, I ended up going to another contract and had lost touch with all of them. And except for one of them I kept in touch with from time to time. Anyway, about 2 years after, around 2002, Johnny contacted a mutual friend, a former coworker, and was looking for me. And so this other coworker gave her my contact information, and she contacted me and wanted to meet me for dinner. So we met at a restaurant. When I knew her at the company, she had a real short pixie haircut. I mean, just real cute haircut. And so I was looking for her, and when I didn't recognize her because her hair was down her shoulders. But so I got a good look at her face, and then I recognized her, and then we met up there, and we went to a table and started. We ordered our food and everything. And so she started to talk to me, asking me how things were going and everything. And I said, things were fine. I was at another company at that time. And she told me that she was still working at the company they were at. And they had been, parts of the company had been purchased by IBM, or I think it was IBM. And so she was actually working for IBM. Just general chit chat. And then all of a sudden she said, one reason I wanted to contact you was that I wanted to tell you that about a year ago, I became a Christian. And so I was real interested in that. And she said she wanted to tell me about her journey. And so she told me. And what she said at that dinner changed me forever. it's a lot of times, we feel compelled to have to say something, if a person's not a Christian or something like that. I wasn't trained that way. This one really told me everything. She told me that she would get around me and other Christians. Her boss was younger than I was, but he went to the same university and had been a manager for years. And she said, the one thing I noticed was whenever it was time to do work, you would do your work. You would come and you would ask what we needed and everything. You'd write everything down. And then she said that you would just stop and talk to us for a while before going back to work. We just do a little bit of talking, and I would try, if there was anything else, that I could think of, before I left, and, we might talk a little bit about something else. And she said, you would talk to me, we just talk to me like a normal person. And she said that I was nice to her. And I didn't think about it at the time, but later on I understood. Sometimes at that time anyway, consultants could kind of get the big head and, like they're better than everybody else and all that. But anyway, at that moment, I wasn't thinking like that. When she said that I was nice to her, I was stunned. How to be nice to her, get her to become a Christian. Well, she said that she was working for her boss. Her boss was the same, very nice. I worked with him for a while. And she said about a little over a year before, around 2001, I guess it was, she said she turned to her boss and asked him, why is God so important to you? And so he talked with her and invited her to some event at his church or something like that. And 2 weeks later, she became a Christian. And so I was just like, just because Christians were nice to her and she noticed a difference in how we lived and how we worked, there was a distinct difference, and she became a Christian. She then told me that 6 months before then, she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and that was why she was wearing a wig. And we had about a year together before the cancer spread throughout her body, and she moved to heaven in August 2003. And every time I tell this story, I think, what if I had gone off on her one day? Not every day at work is good. You have pressures, particularly in the computer industry. There's a lot of pressure, even though people didn't have computers for decades, everything has to be done by this date or else it's just hell to pay, so there's always that pressure, to have, projects done. They got to work right. You got to test them and all that, and so I was working, I wasn't trying to tell her, you need to stop this or that or anything like that. I was just nice to her. I treated her just like I would treat anybody else. And it was just such a humbling thing for me to realize that she's in heaven today, because of that. And it changed me forever, because you wonder, how you can impact people, without this idea that you have to have notches on your belt. That her story broke me of that thought forever. Anyway, that was one that was quite interesting. There was one that I was thinking about sharing, but I don't feel led to do that. But I'll just say from time to time that I've had unique opportunities with people, just along the way. Sometimes, just on the street, I may have met someone who I didn't realize needed something, and ended up having a chance just to say a kind word to them, or pray with them or something like that. But there's a few things like that have changed my life, and I hope that will make an impact on someone else. I mean, I don't care if you're a Christian or not. I think every human being, just in the back of their minds, most human beings, I think every human being realizing that none of us are going to come out of this life alive, that I think every human being wants to at least feel like they've made the world, when they do die, that they have left this world a better place than when they came. I think that's for any human being. I know that's my heart. Anyway, here's a few other things that we've just really been thinking about this. Bernard and I, we're just discussing, thinking of things that have happened over the years, decades really at this point in our lives, and how they've really impacted us, and hopefully it's been a blessing to them. In the year 2000, I rarely tell my age, but y'all be able to guess this, but when I was 38 years old, I decided that every 10 years, I was just going to do something, fun or just something unusual. When I turned 40, when I turned 50, when I turned 60, I was just going to do something, out there, kind of like President George Herbert Walker Bush, our 41st president. Every 5 years, he would jump out of do a helicopter jump or something. I'm trying to think what that is. Parachuting, that's what it is. He would do that every 5 years or something. Just something like that. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, when I was 38 years old, I said, well, what can I do when I turn 40? And so I decided that I was going to take as many missions trips between my 40th birthday and my 41st birthday. And so I was trying to decide who I was going to go with and how I was going to do this. At that point, I had taken 3 trips to other countries. And so I said, okay, I'll do this. And so in 2000, right a few months after I turned 40, I decided to take missions trips through the year 2000. And so I ended up taking 2 trips to with a particular ministry that I was a financial contributor with for years at that point. I guess at that point, probably 13 years. And so I said, well, let me just take these trips. And so before then, a few months before then, I had attended a conference at that church, and I met a gal in line. At that time, the ministry was very popular. Thousands would come from all over the world and go. And so I met a gal in line, and she's just a few months younger than I am, and we're still friends today. We talk about everything. I mean, we haven't seen each other very often because we've never lived in the same town, but we're friends today. 15 years now, going on 16. And at the same church, a few months later, she invited me to come for New Year's. That was in '99, where everyone was saying the planes were going to fall out of the sky. So of course, on New Year's Eve, I'm flying in a plane. And I met another gal that was a part of that ministry at that time. I'm still friends with her, almost 15 years now. And when I took those 2 trips in 2000, I met a whole bunch of other people that I'm still, a good number I still have contact with today. And for those of you that may not know us, if this is the first time you're watching this, Bernard and I, we feel the call to fund the gospel. That's why we are launching business projects and things like that. We call them gospel entrepreneur projects, where the majority of the funds that we earn will fund, benevolence and gospel endeavors. And so what was so nice was, I guess about when we started doing videos of the church that we attend and the Family Prayer Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we started posting videos on a YouTube channel, the ICTISnet YouTube channel. And somehow through that, he started, one of the young men that I met in 2000 started thinking about me and did a web search on me. And I had my birth name, which is Pamela Cook, on the website and contacted me. And I hadn't seen him at that time, I guess in 12 or 13 years. Hadn't seen him since 2000. And so he contacted me and we started communicating. Both of us had been married by then, and to other people, of course. And he told me he had the same calling. And so we started communicating off and on the last couple of years, and him and his family came to our annual conference. I mean, what's the chance of that? Another situation regarding the missions trips. One of the last trips I went to was to an Asian country, and I happened to keep in touch with a family that lived in that country off and on for all these years. And last year, heard from them and found out that their nephew was going to be here in Tulsa attending one of the local universities. And so I got a chance to meet another family from that country, and they're living in another country, another Asian country. But who knew that those trips in 2000, that I would be meeting new people, that I would be having encounters that are just adding so much to my life today. But, you know, I just did it so that I could celebrate my 40th birthday. The Lord knew, you know, what would happen down the line. Here's another story. These are some stories that have happened since we started dating and when we were getting, you know, after we'd been married. When we were dating, we were doing a lot of walking, you know, to kind of keep, you know, keep in shape. In France, in a lot of areas in France, walking, they do a lot of walking, particularly in Paris. They're walking to the subway, walking from the subway, just walking everywhere. And so he just kept walking, you know, he would walk a lot if he could, you know, the weather was good. And so when we started dating, I was trying to lose a lot of weight. I've lost a lot of weight, gained a little back, need to get it off again. But I lost quite a bit of weight. I would tell people that I lost 1/3 of my former self, almost there, but I gained a little back. Anyway, we had started dating, and we were walking down a street here in Tulsa, and a lady came up and started speaking to Bernard and asking if he had remembered her, and he didn't. And before I finish the story, our pastor at the prayer center is Dave Roberson, and he has a book that he wrote in 1999 called The Walk of the Spirit, The Walk of Power, which gives a good overview of what happens, you know, how the prayer language and praying in tongues really helps you in a lot of areas in your life. It produces a lot of things and helps with understanding the Bible and things like that. And so it's a book that's available on our website, ictusnetlive.com. It's available in I think it's now 10 languages, including French. The French version was just made available earlier this year. And so from time to time, Bernard and his first wife, Michelle, she passed away years ago before we started dating. And they would, you know, have books in their vehicle, and they would give, you know, if someone asked about it or something, they would just give a book here, give a book there. You know, they had a lot of hardback books back at that time. And so Michelle had given this lady the book years ago, and he didn't remember it. And she told when the lady talked to him, when he said he didn't remember, she said that years ago he and a blonde lady had given her the book, and that's when he told the lady that his first wife had died. And she thanked him, you know, for the book and that it had changed her life, you know, but that was years before, you know, so, you know, just a little thing like that with a stranger, you know, doing just something, you know, they didn't know if they would ever see this woman again, you know, and it was something that, you know, a stranger, and something that changed that person's life. And in fact, there's another thing that I'm thinking about right now that I wasn't going to mention. There's a grocery store here. It's a fairly well-known chain here in the United States called Sprouts Market or something like that. And several of them opened here in Tulsa last year or two. And one day we went to the store, and this lady checked out, and we were checking out with this lady. I didn't know who she was. And it turned out that it was a person that Bernard, had worked at another store at the time, I guess. I just saw her for the first time. And she was another one that was given the book, The Walk of the Spirit, The Walk of Power. And she was just grateful, you know, that it was handed to her. You know, you never know what a small act would do for people. A lot of times here in the U.S., people are talking about random acts of kindness. Well, this is kind of along the same line, not necessarily that we're always doing stuff for people, but just encounters with people that may make a difference in your life. The other day, we went back to Sprouts. I guess about 2 or 3 days ago, we were doing a little bit of shopping before Thanksgiving, which was celebrated yesterday here in America. And my dear husband loves coffee. He loves coffee. That's all I say about that. And so whenever we go to the store, they started selling a coffee that they sell in California that he likes. And so we always get it on sale. And so this particular day, we decided that we were going to go in different sections of the store. And so he went to the coffee section, and I went somewhere else to buy something. I don't remember what it was right now. And so when I went over there, I went and I saw him talking to this lady. And she had asked him, you know, about the coffee. It was Pete's coffee, and it was French roast. And evidently she had asked him, you know, if the coffee was good, and he said yes, and that was about the time that I came up there, and he started talking to her and recognized guest from her accent, one of 2 Eastern European countries, and so he guessed it correct, and you know, found out, you know, from talking to her that she was a Christian, and she was from a country where a well-known Christian leader from that country was there, and that's how he found out that she was a Christian, because Bernard had met this man years ago and said, yeah, I met someone from that country, and he mentioned the man's name, and she said, yeah, I'm very familiar with him. I read his book and blah, 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 you know, and we just had a wonderful time. We don't know if we'll see her again, but you know, it seems like we're meeting more and more people from outside the U.S. You know, just in Tulsa, where and maybe 20 years ago, you may not have seen a lot of that. You know, there's a lot of Native Americans here in this area, in the state of Oklahoma, where we're from. And, you know, you may have people that may come here to school, but not a whole lot of them stay. But more and more, we're seeing more people from other countries here. And it was just so refreshing to see that. And another story that happens from time to time is we, throughout our lives, more so Bernard than me, over the years has met people and have been friends with people that are in what we would call restricted nations, and a lot of times we're non-Christian people. You know, they might have been Muslim or, you know, Buddhist or something like that. But in the tech world, there's really not a whole lot of religion discussion. You just kind of jump in there and do the project and you know, do your thing. But sometimes even, you know, if you meet people with other faiths, you know, if you truly love them, and don't try to beat them over the head, if you truly love them, they may come to you later. And there was a situation that happened recently where, you know, Bernard, he has the most gentle heart. He's very bold, you know, in sharing his beliefs and things like that, but his heart is the heart of a child. And if he could, he's the kind of man that I think, you know, that if he, you know, found someone on the street, he'd bring them home. You know, in fact, I think I'm going to mention one of his stories here in relationship to that. When he and his first wife, Michelle, they were in Canada, and they were, you know, living life. He was working in consulting. They had a son, Renaud, who was a minor at that time. And somehow they saw a woman, I believe, with a couple of children on the street, and found out that she was running away from an abusive husband. You know, but she had nothing. She was out on the street, and they grabbed her and took her in, you know, and was able to get her, you know, to a place of refuge away from that person, you know. You never know. You go down the street, you never know how your life can change, or how you may end up helping someone, or how someone may minister to you or reach out to you, or make such an impact in your life. But just loving people. You never know. You may speak the word to someone, just a kind word or whatever. You never know. Someone may remember you later down the line. And as I said with my friend Johnny, that's what happened. And there are times when I think of her, I can just cry. I wish that she could have gotten better. And, we could have, built a relationship as friends in Christ, but at least she made it. At least she made it, and I'm so grateful for that. Before we did the current version of IctusNet Live, but IctusNet Live is like a subset of an ecosystem. We used to call it the IctusNet ecosystem, where we focus on body, mind, and spirit. Right now, the spirit side of that is the IctusNet Live media website, where we do these broadcasts and we post messages and newsletters and booklets and things that are similar in the teachings of what we receive at our church. And so before we did the spirit side, made it a separate website. We had the old version that Bernard had created before we got married. And this makes me weep sometimes too. They're, as I mentioned earlier, they're what they refer to as restricted nations where people that are not of the faith in that nation are persecuted. It may, whatever the faith is. In the context of Christianity, people in the restricted nations are countries where Christians are persecuted, for their faith. And so we one night we hadn't been married very long, and from time to time we get newsletters get prayer requests from around the world. And this particular time was the first time that we got a prayer request from a restricted nation. And I won't even mention the country now, but what was so touching about it was the email address was do@notrespond.com or something like that. And you could tell when you looked at it that the person was trying to use a software to translate that language into English, and we tried our best to kind of figure out what it was. And we went forward that night to church and asked the preacher and his wife, to pray over this, but it just touched us so much because that was the first time we had that happen, and, the audience of our websites is growing and growing. This was several years ago, and we didn't, you never know how websites will, who will see your website, who will look at it, unless you really invest in real sophisticated software and things like that, which right now we haven't done. But, you never know unless people reach out to you who may be going to your website. So it really touched our hearts, and it really helped us to give us the impetus to continue on with doing the web work and doing what we were doing. Another thing that about that has been such a joy for us is since we've been doing IctusNetLive.com, we've found that there are people in other countries that will find us. And we're going to mention 3 or 4 during this program. And for those, if you've been on our mailing list for any time, you've heard us, you've seen us reference a gal named Kathia. She found us on Facebook, I believe it was initially. She was had questions about speaking in tongues, and happened to find one of the pages on our website. And somehow around there, I guess she saw our post somehow and found who we were, and connected with us on Facebook and LinkedIn, you know, just connected with us. And she would send prayer requests to us, you know, at the end of services. Well, the evening services, it was 4 in in France, you know, and so we were just getting to know her. She was seeing answers to prayer and things like that, and just a dear sister, you know. We had no idea that, you know, through the website that we would meet such precious people, literally from around the world, and she's one of them. She's one of them. Another one is Miguel. He's from Portugal, and he found Bernard on Facebook. And he and another fellow helped us with translating Ictus Live into Portuguese. Katia and Bernard did the translating of the book, The Walk of the Spirit, The Walk of Power, and Ictus Live into French. So, and we didn't ask them to do that because it's very difficult to translate. I'm married to a man from France, and I'm learning French now, and I know how difficult it can be to translate. And you know, for people to reach out and help us like that was such a blessing. Another person was Guilherme in Brazil. He just came out. Miguel started the translation, and he finished the Portuguese translation for us. And haven't had a chance to engage him as much as we would like to, but we will. What little we have, we know he is a wonderful, wonderful man. And we couldn't have done, we could not have gotten this far without them. And these are those people that reached out to us, you know. We didn't know how we would translate anything. You know, we thought we might have to pay people or something like that. And, you know, they didn't just do that. We consider them friends, you know. And through Miguel, he had a friend, another friend that's still in Portugal, named Carlos, and he was coming here to town to attend a conference. And Miguel suggested that he meet us, and so we spent a couple of days with Carlos and another precious person, musician, worship leader, just a heart of gold, all through software and hardware, computer hardware and computer software. When we say, if you're on our mailing list, and when we say that you're not just a name or a number to us, that we consider you a member of the family. We do. We may not meet you here, but we consider you a member of the family because we know that you have taken the time to connect to our website. You've taken that time, and some of you, you know, have communicated with us, and you know, we will never know how many people may have found our videos on YouTube or anything, but all of them, Katia, Miguel, Carlos, and Guilherme, all of them were strangers. We didn't know they were out there, you know, and all 4 of them have changed our lives. They really have. And just by doing what we do, not trying to strong arm anyone and not trying to force anyone to do anything, just doing what we do, living our lives day by day. And we just wanted to let you know that don't take any experience for granted. Don't take any encounter with people for granted. You never know what impact your encounter with someone may have down the line. They may never know your name, but they may remember that you smiled at him or you said hello to them. You may save people from taking their lives just by saying hello, Have a great day. You never know, you know. Just know that your life is important and your encounter with people is important. I don't care where, where you find yourself, how you feel about yourself, or anything like that. There's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why you're here. And my prayer is that you understand that you are important, not just to God, but you're important to the people around you. You may not feel like that's the case, but you are. And as you walk your life out, if you're a Christian watching this, you walk your life out and try and hear the Lord on where you're to go. You will make an impact on the people you're to make impact with. In a lot of cases, and particularly in our case, without even hardly trying, just living your life day by day. Bernard and I, we found that we're reaching more people just by how we live our lives, way more than what we say, way more than what we say. We're not saying don't ever say anything. We're not saying that at all. It just seems like just living our lives, we've seen a lot more impact, just by living our lives. What Oral said was true. Oral Roberts, live your life. Live your life. Be kind to people. Be a blessing to people. If you're training for a job, be the best person there. Be helpful. Be good. And let your life be a witness to other people. There's a saying that has been the credit has been given to St. Francis of Assisi, which says, "Preach the gospel. When necessary, use words." Here in America, and it may be in other countries, another way of saying this, here in America, the popular saying is, actions speak louder than words. That's really true. The Bible says that they will know that we're Christians by our love. We can stand for the truth in love. People will remember love. They will remember. You may have to say a hard thing at times, but they'll know if you're saying it out of love or out of anger. Then that people know when they've encountered real love. They know. And our heart is that to share with you that, maybe you go to the store, you might go through a grocery store or wherever if you're working or, maybe you have a business or something like that. And, you encounter people from time to time and you never know the impact that you will have. And everyone that you know today, except maybe your family, your direct family or something like that, was a stranger at one time. You met them for the first time. So, even though you may know a lot of people, pretty much all of them you had to meet somehow, some way as a stranger. And those strangers are people and they're very important. They will live their life out. They'll impact people. You live your life out to the full and be a positive impact to people. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. If you're interested, this broadcast, probably within the next day or so, a video of this video blog of It's Not Complicated will be available on the IctusNet Live YouTube channel, IctusNetLive YouTube channel. It'll also be on our website, ictusnetlive.com. We don't know the next time we'll do a broadcast because we're not doing these on a regular basis, but we just felt led to do this one this weekend. If you have any questions or anything, if you'd like to contact us, you can go to www.ictusnetlive.com and click the word IctusNet Live on the home page, and then on the bottom you should have an icon and a link for the contact page. Our website is in English, French, and Portuguese. So if you want to contact us and tell us what you're thinking about the broadcast, if you want to watch previous episodes of the It's Not Complicated video blog, it's also out there. And if you want to hear more and more about this project, you can go to that website and create an ActisNet user account. And we send emails maybe once every couple of months because we're so busy. We won't bombard anyone with emails. So anyway, I just wanted to end this broadcast praying for you, and also to let you know that Bernard will be doing a similar broadcast on tomorrow, November 29th at 12 noon Central Time, which will be 1900 in France. And that broadcast will be in French, but he will give his thoughts and things about what is happening in his life, and reach out to French-speaking people. If you know of any French-speaking people, please let them know. And I'd like to end this broadcast with praying for you. Lord, I just thank you for everyone that's watching live and those that will watch in the future, maybe years in the future. Lord, I just ask you right now that those that are watching this video will understand just living life, Lord, can be a blessing to people. Just a kind word can change a person's life, even though we think it's nothing. That somehow they could impact heaven without even saying you need to be saved. That just who they are, Lord, that they are important. And Lord, if there are those that want to become a Christian and don't know you, Lord, I just pray that you will reach out to everyone watching, and that your love will be, that your love will meet them right where they are. And Lord, I just thank you right now, Lord, that your presence is with them. And Lord, if there's anyone that needs healing in their body, I just command healing to flow through their body, Lord. And for those that need help in how to walk in a healthy way, Lord, that you show them what to do. If they need to go to a doctor, show them a doctor, help them, whatever is needed, Father, that you would give them that wisdom on how to walk out their health, Father. And those that are needing money, I just pray that you would lead them to your source for finances. If it's a job, if it's ideas for business, that you would lead them in that direction, Father, and that if there are situations where they need miracles or they need to know how to budget, I just ask you to give them that wisdom, Father. And most importantly, Father, that everyone that is watching, that they realize that they have a chance to be a blessing to other people, Father, and to make their lives better. And Lord, I just thank you for this time that I've had to share my heart with these precious people that are watching this video. Amen. Again, we love you, Bernard and I. We will pray for you. We don't know when the next time is, but there probably will be a next time. Blessings and good night.